Welcome, everybody, to this month's Connect with Your True Self energy session and the live meet, so-called workshop. We do this every month, but this one here is very special. It's at the exact time of the solstice, so the summer solstice, if you are in the northern hemisphere, and the winter solstice, if you are in the summer, in the southern hemisphere. And there are some very interesting things about the solstice that I have talked about on many different occasions over the years, and I sent out a video with the instructions that I hope you receive. So I don't really want to cover this here. I just want to sort of, as an intro, just give ourselves sort of the backdrop. When I report about collective energies, I'm reporting about sort of cosmic or collective weather conditions, yeah, sort of what is going on around us. And by the way, I don't know if you hear this, if you hear a chirping sound in the background, something like a high-pitched sound, that is me sitting out here in my healing tent. Yeah, so as a healer, spiritual teacher, and someone who does a lot of lectures, I have to use a lot of technology. And the way for me to infuse my recordings with, sort of the counterbalance to these tech energies, yeah, that have sort of like a dead feel to them, I always sort of allow nature to interfere. Yeah, so you might have wondered about this before. Anybody ever wondered about this? Why I allow, all these like birds and dogs and crickets sort of interfere sometimes? That's why. It softens up the fact that I have to use technology and the energies that are sort of conjured with that. For those of you who are interested, it's the harmonic energy, yeah, that is being invited through technology. And this doesn't mean that we shouldn't use technology, but we should use it with consciousness. We should use it for things that help us, that provide us with something like either, education or something uplifting, something that is a betterment for our life. And if we use technology in this way, we don't really need to be afraid of, some of the potentially dark energies that come in. So being conscientious about, or with, EMF radiation and so forth, is advisable. But if you do this in a way that you leverage your technology use for the purpose, say, for example, us connecting here or listening to a lecture on YouTube or any other platforms, you can sort of balance this out. Me, as the one that actually does the transmission right now, yeah, I try to bring in a certain sort of counter energy to this technology, just in case you ever wondered about this. So coming back to the solstice energies here, this little excursus has or is relevant for our session. Yeah, the session sort of as first impression here from my end. Yeah, this time, yeah, was very, very interesting. Julianne and Jared co-facilitated this session with me. Yeah, they're helping me to hold the field. Yeah, and I expected the session to be very interesting because these moments, these solstice moments twice a year, are not only moments where, like we so often say, the veil, is thin, or, the connection to the spirit world is opened. Yeah, there's also something very specific about being very conscious at that moment, being very conscientious about everything that you think, that you feel, that you express, that you do. And I don't know about you guys, but here in the Northern Hemisphere, yeah, these last 2 weeks, I want to say, were, well, as Cindy called it during the session, they felt like molasses. Cindy, am I representing this correctly? It felt really, really dense.
It felt more like cement to me. It was very hard and cold, but that could have been just me. Yes, very thick.
Hard to move, hard to breathe, hard to just get yourself motivated to doing the things that you set out to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
is that
I could feel a real pullback. It was like I could feel the light coming in and my heart expanding, but then I could feel this this
yeah.
energy pulling me back, like you say, like molasses. And it looked like to me, I saw it like the way I can describe it is a hall of mirrors where I could see all these
Oh, interesting.
selves and all different parts, like ego, false, or whatever, and more so like the personality selves and bits and pieces that were all like still pulling me back. And it's also like with the collective as well, and it was really interesting. But then in front of me I could see this wide space and, well, like angels or what it, just beautiful field of ahead of me. And it's like my eyes, that I felt my third eye clear then, and my eyes could see differently, but then I could feel how a veil could come and pull me back into the old way of seeing. That's one part of the session.
That's very interesting for me, Julian, because you are in the Southern Hemisphere. And, the winter solstice for you is doing something else. And yet the way you described it and the sort of the metaphors that you used are very accurate, especially for this session. Like, this is exactly how we perceive this as well, putting into account that, and I just happen to know this about you because you're one of our trance coaches, one of our healers as well, that you live in the Southern Hemisphere. You said pulling you back, but then you saw the light, and that was sort of kind of trying to lift you up. This would be, from an energetic point of view, very accurate description of what these cosmic collective energies would do to someone in the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, it's sort of like trying to pull you out. Yeah, and this can lead in our sort of everyday experience still to, like I don't want to call it laziness, but sort of an inertness. Yeah, like sort of, rather wanting to dissolve, and sort of give in. There's sort of this giving in compulsion in a way. And the Southern Hemisphere experiences this in an upward fashion right now. And the Northern Hemisphere during a summer solstice would experience this more in a downward fashion, yeah, into this like sort of calcifying, densifying. Both will have the same effect. Both will or could lead to sort of extreme tiredness, sort of a hard time following through, and also, and this is where the mirror aspects come in. You said like a house of mirrors. I like that imagery. Yeah, where like sort of the different aspects of yourself, especially when you connect with yourself like we just did, are being shown to you, are being reflected back to you. this is something that we experienced here as well. So Cindy is also in the Northern Hemisphere, Jared in the Southern Hemisphere. And we talked about this, yes, and I know, Matthew, you are also in the Southern Hemisphere, so I want you guys to not be too literal, but to just feel into, the energies of that. Yeah, so it's just, if you will, the polar opposites. Yeah, and this is exactly what happens during the solstices, is that we are being sort of pulled into our polarities. Yeah, and this can feel, like that you're being pulled downward. It can feel that you're being pulled upward. But at the same time, you're also feeling the counter energy sort of bringing you back. Yeah, and this is then sort of translated, and this is very apparent, very sort of in the forefront here in this session. Feel the inner experience of that can feel like you stepping out of yourself, not like OBE like, but you're stepping out of yourself and watching yourself on the seesaw. You sort of stepping into the witnesser of this inner dialogue. Yeah, I can see your thumbs ups, and you observe it. And this is very, very cool, because in that moment that you are sort of becoming the observer and the experiencer at the same time, yeah, we call this the witnesser, that you actually have the inner experience of that seesaw or that pull and the pull back, or in our case here in the Northern Hemisphere, like barely wanting to get up, and not being able to like sort of activate enough willpower to follow through, to be pulled, distracted into like a certain heaviness. Both, of these extremes do the same thing, not just in the energetic, but also in the emotional, mental, that we are, experiencing ourselves, in our own duality, and that we feel a little bit burdened by this. Did anybody feel this in these last weeks or two? Like, I called this during this session the feeling of, I could do better than that, or not really sort of living up to what I wanted to do or what I want to do, perhaps all the way to, self beat up. That's always like, if we have a tendency for that, and then that would be sort of a time where that could go out of hand. So we have to keep an eye on that and recognize, that this is part of the cosmic condition right now. It's part of, not even sort of geopolitically, but there as well. Yeah. But sort of part of the season. The season now is sort of just looking at, the fruits of our labor. And if we, have been striving for the higher, according to our higher potential, to not just survive or get by or, use, those sort of internal justifications, such as it's not my fault, or, or whatever's coming in from the outside is making me do that. All these kinds of notions, sentiments, or thought process or thought forms, they weaken our development, our, the strength, the power of our will, of our I. Yeah, so standing right on the seesaw, I think it was 10:42 here, Eastern time, the exact time of the solstice, where you would be standing exactly sort of at the midpoint of this seesaw. We could sort of enter into this, and the reason, obviously, why I timed this to be exact with the solstice, is for us to take that moment to really sort of immerse into the stillness of our self awareness in those, cosmic moments, if you will, and connect with it in this way. And the reason why this is very appropriate for a connecting with your true self session is because there's this element of looking at truth. Looking at truth, yes, exactly. Glimpses of old patterns, old ways, familiar. Yes, that's exactly what I'm pointing at. The little guilt here and there. Yes, I called it sort of sort of bad conscience. Yeah, sort of this nagging
That
feeling.
was it.
Yeah,
That was really strong. That like, oh,
yeah.
that almost like a guilt. That, oh, that was how it was. But then also seeing there's an emotional maturity that comes with it because I can identify it. That I think that's what you call
Yes.
being able to
Yeah.
witness it, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, but feeling the heaviness of it in my body and going,
Yep.
oh wow, it's like a a light bulb moment. Like, oh, that's what I'm here for. It's okay. I can feel this and feel the heaviness, but I also have a remedy, right?
That's so wonderful to hear you say this, because we actually at the end of the facilitation talked about how can we get the message out that is really just about that. Well, you called it emotional maturity. I called it sort of stepping into the witnesser and seeing it, looking at it, not being afraid of looking at it and asking yourself fairly, like fair. We often have this sort of fear of judgment, and there is a lot of judgment in our world, and there is, a lot of this sort of overhead that we have with right and wrong and so forth. But if you actually think about, the deeper meaning of judgment, yeah, like the impartial, goddess justice, okay, with the scales, it's really about justice. Yeah, so judgment, yeah, is not really about sort of beating ourselves up or sort of being forced to put ourselves into either category, good or bad. Yeah, we know that that's not how life is. Yeah, life isn't binary. It isn't either that or that. There's so much more, in the in between, and that the act of balancing, the act of scaling, that is actually the act of redemption. That is the act of self-correcting. So self-correcting, yeah, is sort of this process, yeah, that leads us to self-forgiveness, that leads us to this deep release, yeah, that we can experience once we let go of judgment, once we let go of this either or. Yeah, in that moment, you can feel, okay, maybe this didn't go as planned, or I didn't really, give it my all, or, this wasn't the right way. Now I'm in a position to see that and to understand that, and now I can correct that, or I can do better. So there is this sort of doing better element that came in during the session, but not in form of, you should be doing, not like that. But it came in and it's like, I mean, if I was a teenager, I'd say, really? Yeah, it's like, no, I can do better. And am I seeing the results of this yet? Not yet. Okay. But that doesn't mean I can't do better. It just means, yeah, that all the learning that I am going through, yeah, is preparing me for doing better. So ultimately, what we felt as the strongest sort of energetic clearing aspect of this energy session that we did here together was about believing in yourself, but not just in like, oh, you're special, you can do, whatever your heart desires. We already know that that is not really the right or the true message here. It's about something else. It's about believing in the ideal of you, believing in your higher self, and believing or knowing, like sort of resorting to that knowing, even if what you're seeing is not what you want. And sort of mustering this courage, to say, okay, you know what, I may have messed this one up, or this may not have gone well, all right, but now I'm ready to let all that go. I look at it, I've acknowledged it, I've got the t-shirt, and now I'm transforming this into what you called, Jillian, maturity. Now I know a little bit better what not to do. And the aspect with the laziness and these old habits and old patterns, or, sort of this compulsion or temptation to just, I don't know, I guess I could call it sort of wanting to throw the towel, just wanting to, like, whatever, to overcome this. So at these solstice times, it's almost like we're a little forced to look at that and to make a choice. And to say, okay, maybe I was a little too much in my head. I need to go more into my feeling. Maybe I was a little bit too much in, just sort of wanting to enjoy life and having a certain level of convenience. Maybe I need to, bring in a little bit more activity. Maybe I have been neglecting my body. It was all just, about how to get the next high or the next, sort of elation from something. And it's time for me to step up the game, to raise the bar. So for me personally, this time right now is a reminder, that there is a higher self in us. So our true self is linked to our higher self. It's basically sort of the mediator, the in between. So the true self is what we can, via the power of our consciousness, and depending on how strong our I is, we have a very, very good feeling for our true self. At first, it's more sort of like the authentic self that we're seeking. And then with a stronger sort of I, with the stronger consciousness of who we truly are, we can see more and more details in this mirroring. We can see exactly what it is that we need to refine, that we need to, keep working at. In a way, it's also from a higher spiritual perspective, the reminder that there is, the cosmic law of karma. That if I don't do it, I'm gonna have to somehow, at some point, even if it's in a next life, okay, work this out. And it usually comes in form of repetitions, or especially when it comes to trauma and pain, sort of re-experiencing this. And maybe it's smarter to be proactive here. And so from spiritual science, we know that, these solstice energies are exactly that sort of impulse, where it's us remembering how we're standing between, the heavens and the earth, between the moon and the sun, between, our physicality and our spirituality, our identities, as a earth human and as a, soul being in the spirit world. And to remember, that our training course, that this sort of, you know, earthly experience here, that, by the way, our higher self chose. Yeah, we did this as a higher self in full awareness of what will expect us here. Yeah, in other words, that there is a purpose for all of this. Yeah, and that all we really need to do is to believe in it. And not like as in blind faith or anything, but to believe in our inner power. Yeah, this true self power. Yeah, that is linked through our I, through our, consciousness. Yeah, with sort of the higher consciousness, that we're on our path no matter what. Yeah, and you've heard me say this a few times. There's a long way and there's a short way. The long way is through repetition. The short way is not a shortcut, but it is a shorter way, is to look it in the eye. Yeah, not the me eye, but the eye. Yeah, to look at it, to witness it, and to say, okay, no matter how it's going, no matter how my ego thinks or feels about it, yeah, no matter how my neighbors judge it or whatever else is going on in the world, yeah, I know who I am. And I may not have found the perfect expression of that here in this physical world yet. Yeah, let's not confuse this with what our ego wants. See, our ego always wants convenience, always wants not having to worry about money, not having to worry about nuclear bombs, not wanting to worry about what other people think of us. So our ego is geared toward, first of all, only the physical life and, only sort of the getting by, the avoiding pain and seeking pleasure part. Our higher self, sorry, our higher self is not interested in that. So our ego will always kind of contradict. And you've heard me say this many times. Yeah. We actually have a better chance nowadays. This is a little, sarcastic, but we actually have a better chance of making, good, healthy choices for ourselves if we go the opposite way of what our ego recommends. Yeah, what our ego suggests. So this is a little, just to bring a little light-hearted energy into this, that if we feel sort of at the bottom of something, if we feel at the end of our energy, if we feel overwhelmed, if we feel like we can't take this anymore, then, this I power that I'm talking about here needs to recognize that that is the ego talking. Yeah? It is only the ego talking. It is not the true me. This is not the true self. And so in that moment where you realize that, you can make a more conscious choice about what to say next, what to do next, what to choose next. And in order to be able to do all this that I just suggested, we need to stand still for a moment. We need to sort of slow down, and we need to allow that stillness, the very stillness that I'm feeling this right now, that comes in when at the solstice, when the seesaw stands still for a moment, when there's no me, but it's just frozen for a moment, and where you actually have a choice. So with us sort of entering this process here and talking about this right now and making this fully aware to us right now, we can capture that, sort of like a snapshot inside of ourselves, like a reference feeling for next time when we find ourselves in a maybe hopeless or desperate or lonely situation. We just stand still for a moment and focus on our breath. Yeah, preferably sort of a breathing technique that also sort of balances our energies in a somewhat real-time way. Nothing fancy. Yeah, I'm going to show this to you here in a moment. I call this I am breathing. Yeah, like a very, very simple breathing technique that helps you sort of to hone in on your inner zero point. Yeah, that can create that stillness, even if it's just for a few seconds, to just really look at what is. Yeah, to witness truth, and then sort of through your out breath, yeah, to let all this go, to expand into the moment again, yeah, and perhaps even also sort of tune in with nature, tune in with, these seasonal, these cosmic energies that we are, sort of surrounded by, yeah, and that remind us that there is something higher, not just, out there, but that we are part of this out there, that we are part of these cosmic forces. We wouldn't be able to contemplate them, honestly, if we weren't. And that in me is that sort of higher me, that higher self as well. It is always there. It's kind of like our inner light. So that's why you hear, other spiritual teachers' teachings, talk about the inner light, yeah, in conjunction with solstice energies, because it is about, sort of remembering that, reigniting that. And when we're, in the midst of summer, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, by the way, on the 24th of June, yeah, when we celebrate midsummer today, and when we explore these solstice energies once more from a spiritual science perspective. Yeah, what is it actually that we are dealing with here, sort of in a more sort of investigative way? Yeah, so you're all invited. If you're part here of our Sacred Self-Healing community, then you see the live workshop already here on your community app. And if not, then go to my website, transcodes.com, and sign in for our free community so that you have access to that. There we're going to talk about the spiritual science of midsummer, and also bring in sort of the Christian esotericism, how it's actually linked to the Christ light. But anyway, yeah, these solstice energies are linked to our inner light. Yeah, and then when we're in the midst of summer, there's a tendency that we sort of project our light outward too much. Yeah, that we go too much into our physical form, that we are, pulled into sort of the temptations, the pleasures of summer too much, and that we lose ourselves sort of outside of our inner light. And in the southern hemisphere, where you have the winter solstice right now, that's the opposite. There is the danger to get pulled too much into, yourself and your, sort of inner empty light. Yeah, so here, and these are just sort of my words, in the northern hemisphere we have sort of the fake light problem in the summertime, and in the southern hemisphere you have more of like sort of the empty light, the void problem during the solstice time. And so, in either way, yeah, it doesn't matter where you are right now. Our job is to see that, to feel that, and to counteract that. Yeah, to balance it back out, to bring in the scales, yeah, and to discern. Yeah, to say, okay, this is a little too much of this or too much of that. And I need to, just sort of bring this back into balance. And we use, simple, centering, grounding, and self-clearing techniques for that. Yeah, so that we can know and also reconnect, yeah, with the guidance of our higher self. And this guidance, the guidance of our higher self, that comes to us through, if you will, sort of the conscious I, the formed true self, yeah, that you have already sort of contacted, that you've already sort of done your spiritual attendance with. Yeah, you've already connected with your true self. Now it's really just about tuning in the right channel, yeah, on your transceiver, on your radio station, your inner radio station. Say, okay, hang on, I want to listen to you. I want to listen to what you have to say. I want to hear your reassurance. I want to hear, what you want me to hear. Yes, it's like a big breath. It has a lot to do with this. So as we arrive at this solstice point in this solar year, yeah, something sort of deep inside us steers, it gets awakened, gets reignited. Our inner light gets reignited. Not just in the skies, not just in the earth. We can talk about this on the 24th, what's going on, there. And they're here today. We really want to focus on what is going on in our inner experience. Yeah, but, we feel the effects, of the cosmic intelligence coming in for us. And so it's not just about like more light or, anything like that. It's about what the light reveals. Yeah, what does it show us? How does it guide us? And, if we are, and I found myself in that place up until Thursday, actually, where I was I felt a little directionless. I had a lot of things on my plate and I felt overwhelmed, but that's not too uncommon for me. And it felt like it's too big for me. Yeah. And so my ego said, oh, well, then you might as well just check out and, have a bag of chips and, just forget about any of your stuff. Okay. And then I was like, okay, it's okay to do that for a day. But then I need to pay attention that it doesn't become a habit, that it doesn't become sort of a bailout. Yeah, that's where the bad conscience comes in, but not in this judgmental way, but in this like, okay, how can I balance this out? How can I, sort of bring balance into my daily actions, my daily thoughts? Yeah, so remember, I'm always also talking about the spiritual reality of your thoughts and your sentiments, not just your actions. That's also sometimes sort of the place that we go with our thoughts that need to be balanced out. Yeah, so the advice here, and this is sort of the wisdom, this is the culminated wisdom of all your guys' true selves in this session. We had 94 people in this session. That is to allow yourself, just like how the earth does it or the cosmos does it and the solstice times, to just hold your breath for a moment, yeah, and to allow that inner stillness and to sort of reactivate, sort of your inner guidance, your inner light, so that it can carry you through. these times of maybe disorientation or worry or wanting to throw the towel. Yeah, it can make you feel supported. It can give you new courage. And sometimes, honestly, it's really just about bridging it. Yeah, going through something. And then sort of recognizing that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but you can't stand still for too long. Yeah, you have to keep going. And that's sort of the will, that needs to do this. You have to develop the discipline to keep going and to believe in yourself, even if you're not feeling it in the moment. Yeah. So pause, breathe in, hold, look at things and breathe out, let them go and say, all right, okay. And now I want to make, sort of a more conscious choice. Yeah, in the forecast for June, I said seeking the good, the true, and the beautiful. They're kind of like the three graces, to remind ourselves, like, what is it actually that we are here for? What are we actually aspiring to? Yeah, we want to find the good, the true, and the beautiful in life. Yeah, and sometimes that means we have to, seek a little. Yeah, so believing in ourselves doesn't just mean finding. Believing in ourselves means keep going. Keep striving for the ideal. Keep aspiring. Keep refining. Keep cultivating. Keep, sort of. Cindy, how did you say this earlier in the session? I really keep digging for the gold in you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
even if you don't believe that it's there or you can't feel it, there if you tap into that impulse that is there, that you don't know why you keep going. Yeah, but it's there. Just hold on to that. Believe it. Know it in your heart. Yeah, Julianne, exactly. Feel that within.
Yeah. But we have to take a moment to actually be able to feel that, because it's really something that needs to be sort of grounded. Because if we cannot feel this, if we want to throw the towel, if we just get pulled into our anger or whatever sort of, pulls us out of our conscious self, what we feel like we need to balance out can only be felt when you have that sort of that moment of like, okay, I'm letting all this go. I'm willing to look at it. This takes a lot of courage, guys. Yeah, because this is all like inner eye stuff. Yeah. I'm telling my critical inner voice to shut up. Yeah, because I really want to just have a neutral look at it. Okay. And then like, all right, I see it. Okay. And now I'm going to work with it.
And then allowing it to connect.
Yeah, it's like you are connecting with it the moment you look at it.
Yes, exactly.
The moment you look into these mirrors, and what you will see, and we can only like sort of use words here to describe the inner experience that we picked up on, through your guys' energies in this session. What you will see is your light. That's really, and you actually described this earlier. Yeah, like you see a light, and this is a weird thing because you're not seeing this with your eyes, but you're feeling that. It's like a sort of a cosmic fire in your heart. Okay, and it's like a hearth, that we, like a flame that is there, like an eternal flame. Gosh, it all sounds like song lyrics. But, these imageries, these imaginations that come in through music, through movies sometimes, and literature. There's a reason why we have them in our culture, because that's literally sort of what that feels like. So you have to kind of tune into that light, okay? And, like you say, Cindy, like to recognize that this is you. This is what you look like for your higher self. And then those of you who are already sort of conscious energy managers, you can then use all these tools and techniques that you have to actually sort of, make this flame light up. Because, and this is then sort of the advanced step to this, every single true self that becomes aware of his or her light is also able to help others to reignite their light. It's extremely powerful when you know who you are and what you look like in the spirit world, what you look like for your higher self, what you look like for your guardian angel or other spirit beings that are literally sort of watching this as we grow up, from our sort of spiritual childhood into spiritual teenagehood. That's kind of like where I see us right now, like right around 15 years, We get sort of a learner's permit for the spirit world, but we don't know all the traffic rules yet, and we're not seeing a lot yet. The clarity comes then with the cultivation, with the, developing this as a new habit. So this whole idea of balancing and letting go is not just a mental thing, guys. It's a very sort of feeling and sometimes even a visceral thing, something that goes through your body. You just got to give it enough time. So tonight we gathered here to not just to like perform an energy session or something like that, to have somebody, do something to our energy. That's not what these energy training sessions are for. On the contrary, they are for you to enter, to witness your own inner experience. And it takes a few times. It usually takes years, guys, until we sort of develop sort of a proper pathway, like a highway to our to our true self, in these sessions. But we're gathered here today to remember that there is this fire in us, the sacred fire, okay? And this is the flame of our I, the consciousness, that lights us up for the spirit world. This also functions like a flashlight in the dark. So it also protects us. And that's why, in ancient times, the solstices were always really important times for sort of tribal rituals and ceremonies. We're going to talk about this on the 24th for the spirit in the spiritual science, a workshop about the midsummer. Because there is a little bit of a danger around this time as well, not just sort of falling for your lazy butt or wanting to float away, but also actually from a spiritual perspective, namely, that your energetic immune system is kind of thin if you are unconscious. You don't have good shielding. And so it's also very important that you bring back, this sort of light for your own protection. So before I'm going to conclude and ask you sort of about your personal experience, because I would love to hear a little bit from you, how your experience. I want to show what this I am breathing technique can do for you. I have, as some of you may know this already, I have let me see if I can share the the graphic with you. Okay, not sure what you're seeing right now. I don't think it's working. All right, I'm gonna have to figure this out later, guys. I'm gonna send it with the recording. It's just sort of a person that stands. Hang on, I can put this behind me, and this might actually then be enough if I step aside so that you can see this. It shows the dynamics of our in and out breath and what it does to our energy centers. Yeah, and to sort of the overall. Yeah, there you go. I have it right behind me. So, okay, so if you look at this here now, you look at this person, you only see sort of the lower heart half here, but you see the heart center. And you breathe in and consciously visualize that you are pulling in your energies from above your head and from below, from the sky and from the earth into your heart center as you breathe in. This is what balances your energy field sort of in the here and now. Yeah, so let me do this for you. And then you hold it. You hold it. This is the moment of stillness where you go like, and then you go sort of horizontal, and as you breathe out, you visualize your breath going out sideways and expanding, wider and wider, which sort of grounds you in this horizontal. There's something very important that happens to your energy when you do this sort of X and Y consolidation, and this happens with the in-breath. And as we are doing this, you can see here, this opens up your heart chakra. This is also the location of your inner light, by the way. And makes it, as you are sort of, stabilizing yourself in this sort of cosmic cross, makes it possible for you to more easily connect with your inner flame, with your sacred heart, as we call it. And so it grounds you on one hand, which clears your lower chakras, especially your first chakra that is very much here in the northern hemisphere under attack, if you will, during the summer solstice, but also your second and your third chakra. And in the southern hemisphere, it clears out your higher chakras, your throat, your third eye, and your crown chakra, that are under attack during, or not under attack sounds a little dramatic, but they are very thin if this was your shielding, and can easily sort of be hijacked, can easily be manipulated by, darkness, adversarial forces. So let's do this together, if you will. Let's make this a very conscious moment of stillness here. And just close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And imagine, visualize your energies from above going into your heart and from below into your heart. Hold it. Hold it. And then go sideways as you breathe out. Let's do this again. Breathe in. Hold it. breathe out. And one more time, the advanced version, if you can. You say I on your in-breath. This is not easy. You have to practice this a long time. I. This is like a mind wipe, It's like a poof, everything sort of goes away, not for long. So, sometimes you have to repeat this a few times, but it gives you this moment of stillness where you can remember, where you can, maybe even feel your inner light, but definitely remember that there is a higher being in you, and that then automatically sort of switches on your light or expands your light. So I hope that this was useful for you here, sort of as a practical tool. This concludes sort of my sort of iteration here of our session. Does anybody, Cindy or Jared, would you like to add anything? Would you like to comment on anything? Maybe something that I forgot to mention or that you felt.
Just trust in the wisdom of your true self. Just believe it is there. It is, I promise you. Something you taught me years ago, Jona, is fake it till you make it. If you don't believe that it's there, just keep going. You will eventually get there, and you'll understand the feeling. There's some days that I don't feel it, but I know it's there. Just keep going. That's Matthew's favorite saying, just keep going. Thank you, Matthew.
I love it when you guys exchange in this way. This is the true meaning of community. Thank you for that, Cindy and Matthew. Any other comments or maybe questions that you have? Yeah, Cindy, you love the cosmic cross. I just see the chat here. Yeah, I'm going to send I am breathing, the graphic. I'm going to send that with the recording that you guys all receive if you RSVP'd. Tomorrow we are having also another workshop, which is called it's the last workshop of the building a bridge between the material and spiritual world here for the Sacred Self-Healing community. Everybody is invited to join, and it's overcoming issues in relationships. We did have a workshop 2 weeks ago titled Overcoming Loneliness, and we could not record it. So I'm going to do sort of a double workshop tomorrow. It's going to be about overcoming loneliness. Yeah, why are spiritual people so lonely, or does it only appear that way? Is it really harder to connect with other people when you're a bit more spiritual, or is there something else? So we're going to discuss that, and then basically conclude with how we can actually more deeply connect with others. And as you have probably already guessed, it has a lot to do with your ability to connect with your own true self. Yeah, it actually does. So anyway, since you arrived, those of you live here, you've arrived here in our new community, you will see the link for the workshop tomorrow, Sunday, not tomorrow, day after tomorrow. So Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and then the big Spiritual Science Midsummer session on the 24th. Look this all up. Push the RSVP button. By the way, the community now has like cool little playful features such as spirit points that you can get rewards for. So play around a little bit, guys. Yeah, enjoy that you have actually found your tribe, without any kind of, weirdo things, just like-minded people that like discussing things together in this spiritual way, and sometimes also doing sessions together. So I love it, guys. I am super thrilled. I am absolutely grateful for you not having given up on your inner light, because then you wouldn't be here today. Yeah, so you are here, or you're watching this video because you feel that it's in you. Yeah, and all I want to say here to close up is, yes, I can see it too. We can see it too. We just worked with your light in this wonderful session. Thank you so much for trusting and for wanting, for choosing to be conscious in this trying time. I see you again very soon, and I love you and thank you for coming. Bye-bye.